everyone, welcome back to Author Chat, or welcome if you haven't been here before. And I basically talk writing and books with authors. And today I have with me Shawna Rodrigues. Shawna is the debut novelist with a book called Beyond the Pear Blossoms, which is out now. Thank you, Shawna. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Terry. I'm glad to be here.
Great. And your new women's fiction book out now is, can you tell
So,
us?
my novel is greatly about, finding your way and finding the people that help you find your path and where you're supposed to be in life. So, it follows our really strong female lead as she graduates from college and returns to her home state and kind of interacts with the people she grew up with and her family and where she's from and trying to find out where she's supposed to be and following her career and her passions or some of the other priorities. And she has a relationship that works in there with her trying to figure out where she wants to be and where she should be. So it's kind of that finding your way, and there's and those pieces in there that she's figuring out for herself.
Great, great. And it's about friendship too, I understand.
Yeah, there really is. It really became like as the characters took on their places and pieces in it, it really became such a strong thread in the book is the importance of those relationships and who those people are and then what they help you learn about yourself and what you see in them. And one of the reviews really kind of reflected really well about how the book really shows you that you can be from different places because the various friends are from different places in the character's life and they are from different places geographically and have very different backgrounds and how you can really have people that have different perspectives from you that can really enrich and enhance who you are as a person because of those pieces and how you can really come together and learn from each other and remain close throughout that. So I think that's a really important message that kind of the characters came in the book and kind of brought that forward, which is really kind of exciting.
Great. Uh, that was your debut novel, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
So now that you're done with that, what surprised you most about the process?
I think that the editing process, I was it felt very daunting. That felt like the most daunting part of the process. And the idea of rereading the novel over and over with how long it was. But then once we were in that process, I wanted longer. Like, I wish it would have had more time. And my publisher was very like, oh, it won't take that long. And, we can do this really quickly. And once I was there, I was like, I want more readers to look at it first. I want more feedback. I want to make it better. I want more time in this place. And so it was funny that I really wanted more time with that and that I really enjoyed that part of the process more because that's when it really became more alive and more exciting for me because then it was that it just had more synergy at that point in time. So I actually really enjoyed that part. And the next round, I think that I'm going to give more time and more attention to that place because it's like it really does. It's like the finishing touches that you really want time for. So it surprised me how much I enjoyed that and how much I wanted more time for that.
Yeah, it's surprising that these things don't just pop out of us fully formed. It takes lots of work a lot of times to get to that point.
And
So,
well, I think part of it too was because I finished the novel during the pandemic, and so to be doing that, like I wasn't having happy hour with friends and having conversations where I was like ruminating and going through and developing and doing things out loud. Like I am a talker, and I process things verbally, and so it was me and my computer processing things. And so when people did read it, and I did have that extra time after, it was more important than I think I realized it would be because I was so much of it was solitary, me and my little computer instead of me with it being out and alive. And so yes, as it's been written, like it's almost like now that it's published, I shouldn't be reading it because I want to change it. I want to improve it and I want to do more with it. So I need to save that for the next book. But yeah, so once it was in that phase, I wanted to spend longer and kept going, what else can I do? What more can I do to kind of make it flow differently and breathe more life into it?
so how long did it take you from the time you started writing Beyond the Pear Blossoms to when you had that delivered your finished manuscript? How long of a process?
So the first four chapters were written a decade ago. So I wrote them during National Novel Writing Month is when I started it, like a decade ago. And they kind of just sat the file on my computer. And about a year and a half ago now, I decided to transition out of my full-time career and position and decided that I was going to do consulting. And part of that transition was I wanted more time for my writing, because that's been like this dream in the background that like you don't dare to dream and not many people knew about type of thing. But one of the reasons I wanted to consult was I wanted more time for that. And so when that happened, things just like started magically falling into place for this to come together. And so once like I was signed and things were happening, it really took it was less than a year, like from like, finishing it to it being on shelves was like 13 months total. And so it was like super fast, like once that all was happening. So there was 10 months of 10 years of sitting, and then like 1 year of mad dash of it all coming together, which is like I said, like it would have been nicer to have more of that edification process have taken longer. But so it's kind of exciting that it kind of came together that quickly once it did come together. But there was times in there, you can ask my friends that were around for the process, where it was like slogging through the writing, where it was taking longer than I wanted it to, because it surprised me that finding time and getting in this space was a little harder than I expected it to be. Because a novel, it's a lot more writing. Like, in my head, it was going to be a little simpler than it was. And so it was a little bit slog at times. And then like at the end, like when it really came together right at the end, it kind of it came together really nicely. And I actually, so part of the magic of the novel and when it came together is I actually finished it at the end of August, beginning of September. And it was actually right before. So I'm from Oregon, and my hometown is Talent is my hometown. It's in the Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon. And in September, the Alameda wildfire hit my hometown. Yeah. And more than 2,500 homes were lost in a period of less than 24 hours. And it was right after I finished my book. And so part of the book actually takes place in the Rogue Valley, in my hometown, in my home area. And because of that, the synchronicity was really not lost on me. And as I came to my hometown a lot during the couple of months while I was doing revisions and working with my publisher and doing that, like it finally dawned on me that my desire to do more, that my book was a small way that I could do more. So I actually, my book is dedicated to the Rogue Valley and to the resilience and the amazing people here that prove that home was more than just a place or a building, because of the wonderful ways they've come together and are working on rebuilding. And I've dedicated half of my proceeds to my proceeds, which we know as authors is not that much, but half of my proceeds are actually going to help with long-term rebuilding efforts. And I've chosen the Habitat for Humanity here in the Rogue Valley. They've already have 3 lots. They've purchased multiple lots, and 3 of them they already have cleared, and they're starting homes this summer to actually work with families to get them in permanent housing, because it was a significant issue here before the fires happened. And since then, it's been really, really challenging for families with housing. And so that's part of like the other piece of it. So, and the pear blossoms, like this is the Rogue Valley. We're known for the pears. Harry and David, their pears, they come from here. I was a princess when I was in high school. So Beyond the Pear Blossoms is all connected. And so that's part of where it all comes together. So the book was already named after the Rogue Valley before all of this, and it's dedicated to the Rogue Valley, and part of the proceeds is going to help the Rogue Valley rebuild from everything they've done and the resilience they've really shown through a really, really challenging time and it's going to be years before things kind of get together, but people have really been supportive of each other. So that's kind of the resilience of that is all kind of tied into the book and the synchronicity of those things as well.
Well, that's great. So everybody run out and buy Shawna's book and get the proceeds so she can donate to Habitat for Humanity and get people back in their houses.
Yes. All those little pieces help.
Absolutely. In your writing, are you a plotter or a pantser, or a bit of both?
I'm definitely more of a plotter, and it was kind of fun. Like I think I was trying to be a pantser, and that's when I was getting lost in the middle. And once I really sat down and plotted things out, it flowed so much easier for me. And I really kind of enjoyed that part of the process. It was more fun. But I write out of order. Like I have scenes that come to me that are part of it that I get excited about, and I write them. So then having it plotted so I can go write about this when inspiration strikes makes it easier. And then it can be sloggy when I go and tie it all together. So I do write out of sequence by whatever like inspiration strikes me, but definitely more of a plotter.
What drew you to the genre?
I think I've always been there's kind of a joke, like things go sideways in life, as we all know. And when things have gone sideways in my life, there's been a running joke. A few years ago, things were really crazy. And one of my friends, the conversation became like, I need to start writing about what was happening in my life, or the universe would keep giving me things to write about. And it's partly like the women's fiction piece really is connected to real life and like what really happens to people. And so I think that having like that way of connecting to people by having stuff that's really realistic. So it's very contemporary and realistic. And a lot of the reviews and feedback I've gotten for my novel is that it feels very real. It's very much the conversations and the connections and the people that are very relatable and that you can connect to. And I think that that's what draws me to women's fiction is it's just very real, and it tells you about real life and what you're really dealing with, and you can connect to characters. And I like to feel like there's like a message and a connecting and a realization about yourself and who you are and where you're going, and some like pieces of that you get from it. And that's what I love about women's fiction, is really feeling like there's that inspirational connection, finding yourself and your direction a little bit from it, because that's a lot of what the book is about.
Okay. What is your top advice for someone sitting down to write their first book?
I think just to like not let the voices to slow you down, because I think that like when I started, it never crossed my mind that I couldn't write a novel. Like actually publishing it, like never even thought that far ahead. But it surprised me how many people were like, "Oh, I could never do that, and that's just not possible, and that would be so much." I'm like, well, if you start there, you're never gonna do it. So to like just skip those voices and just start doing it. If that's where you see yourself and you want to just jump in and see where it goes with that and find your way. I've also been really impressed, like since I was deep in the process and more since I've written it, there's so much support online that has surprised and impressed me. And there's so many groups, especially on Facebook, that are so supportive of people that are starting out writing, to kind of guide you and give you your advice and kind of show you your way. And I know that I had a very, very close friend that NaNoWriMo when I started writing. And for those that don't know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month this November. That when I started that with a friend, like that friend was like, oh, well, you can't write a novel unless you have an MFA and you go to school for it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, oh, really? Really? Okay. Well, I mean, you probably are better at it if you've done that, and know more people in the industry if you've done that. But and so that person, like that person's never written a novel, even though I think they would be amazing. And what they have to say is great, because that they've always let them slow them down and stop them. And I think that when you get on line and connect to people that are in these different forums, these different groups that have actually like done this and found their voice, and not everyone that's done this and found their voice is somebody who has gone through formal training for it, that you can kind of see that there are places for different voices and perspectives. And I think a lot of conversations have been more diversity in voices and more stories of diversity. And I know that one thing I've loved about reading is learning about different cultures and different places and different ways of being. And I'm somebody who grew up in a small town and have lived all over the country in different places and love to travel. And I feel like part of that love came from books and came from reading and learning about other places and people and things and ways of thinking. And that the more people that have that diversity and they're writing about where they're from and what they've experienced and things I would not learn about if not reading The Kite Runner, A Thousand Splendid Suns, or books that really do show you different perspectives, that I think we'd lose those voices. So I think to not let it slow you down, that you don't have all of the pieces that somebody else might have, to find your voice in your stories and to be willing to put them out there.
I agree. You just did your first book signing. That's an exciting thing, and not a lot of people have been able to do one here in the last year with everything. How did your book signing go?
Well, it was really fun. So actually, it was at I'm in Southern Oregon where I grew up. So I live in Portland. I'm in Southern Oregon, and it was at the Pear Blossom Street Fair. So Beyond the Pear Blossom Street Fair. So I was able to be there. So I was selling books and signing books, and it was nice to be out and about with people. It was kind of fun that there was people out. It was a lot slower and quieter than most years, so there wasn't a ton of people there, but it
Right.
was so much fun to get to see people. And I had people that brought down books that they'd already purchased of mine for me to sign, and then people were able to buy books there and sign them. So it was really fun to get to see people and talk about the book and talk about too, this community is connected to the fires and the people that would be benefiting from the proceeds and stuff. So it was great to be able to talk about that a little bit. I only cried twice. I know I'm working on that. It's hard for me to talk about it and not get all teary eyed. So it was really nice to be able to talk about that and do that and to be out. It was beautiful. The weather was lovely. So it was great to be out in the sunshine. A little chilly in the shade, but it was nice to be out in the sunshine for the most part and see people out and about. So it was fun. It was exciting. It was kind of nice that it wasn't just about me and the book too. So there's a little less pressure. It was more just a congenial being out. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
What was the most difficult part of writing your novel, and how did you push through?
My expectations. I really it was so funny. I would be like, okay, like I went to New England. So before the pandemic happened, because I started really getting serious right before the pandemic. And I went to New England for I think it was 10 days. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna write this many pages every day and get so far and be practically done by the time I come home. That did not happen. So I think that my expectations because I can get in the zone and write huge amounts, but I have to be in that zone, and that zone doesn't just magically happen. And so there's a big difference between the days that I'm making myself write and the days that I'm in the zone and just writing. And it's impressive how much I can distract myself with research. Yeah, so one of my characters was, in the Peace Corps, and I know so much about what she did in the Peace Corps that never made it into the book because I learned so much because I need to be really authentic with that information, but it definitely distracted hours of writing time. I mean, learning about where she would be and what she would be doing and what time of year she had to apply and when she would leave. And yeah, so I'm very good at distracting myself, and I definitely had higher expectations of myself and how quickly it would all get done. So I've learned my lesson.
So what is next for you? Are you working on a follow-up or?
So I am working on things. I'm trying to find my way. I think that I've definitely, in my mind, when it came to writing books, I have these ideas for very solitary books, and I know the next book and what I want to write about that's very different than the first book. But of course, I've got a lot of feedback from readers and from other people about, we want to hear more about these characters, about what they do, and more that type of doing things. And of course, the more I've been involved in learning about writing and about in different forms as writers, that's a great way to do things, and people love that. And of course, I remember my best connection with that is actually when I did young adult reading, and I read The Babysitter's Club religiously every single book growing up.
Oh,
but
yeah.
as an adult, I've never read series as an adult, and so as an adult, that never even dawned on me as a way to do things. And so I think that I'm getting torn with ideas and not getting set into a project as much as I would like. I really thought I would be getting my feet into something really good right now, and I'm still kind of leading this and starting this and thinking through this, and I'm not having as much direction as I would like. But I'm definitely, for a while I was no, maybe no, I am going to write more. I just got to figure out which direction I'm going just yet.
What does success look like for you?
Oh, it's so funny. I have a friend of my fiance's family that keeps asking so how many books? And I actually don't know how many books, because my publisher, it was so funny. So they put things together. I'm okay, so do I get weekly reports or daily? How often do I find out? And they're like, you get your royalties after 4 months. I'm like, no, not royalties. When do I find out the numbers? And after 4 months. I'm like, what? I want daily reports. I want to know how it's doing and what's working. And, I want data. I like data. My background is more data. And so I really don't know that much about where things are at and how things are going. And I have people that really want the numbers, and I wanted numbers at first. But the fun thing is that every time somebody sends me a note or posts something or gives me a review, I get so excited. Every single one of them. So every person that reads my book is a treat and feels like success to me, because it is all just that. And so it's not I'm aiming for this big, huge thing. It's every single one and every time. So my latest huge success was somebody writing me this note that says oh my gosh, you're writing about me. Like, this is me. Like, I know this guy this in this book. Like, this is me. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. That's what I want to, So I get excited and feel success in all those little things. And like, I was so excited that I got 40 reviews, and I went to post on Facebook, yay, I got 40 reviews. And it was up to 42, and the next day 44, and 46 the next day. And so I'm like, what? 46 reviews? The success for me is every little single piece, because it is just so exciting. And I'm still kind of like, my book got published? That's amazing. So really, the book getting published was success. And all of this is just gravy and so wonderful. And if people like connect with it, just one person, two people, five people, that means so much to me. So yes, so that's, yeah, I get very excited about all of it. I have like my goal for, I've told that the Habitat for Humanity that my goal is for them to get $10,000 from my book sales this year. So that success for me would be to make sure they get at least $10,000 from my book sales. So, and more would be great. So that's like what I hope they get from that. So that, I guess, would be success in that sense. But really, every single sale is a success. It makes me very happy.
That is awesome, because a lot of writers know that getting reviews can be very difficult to get
Yeah.
reviews. So congratulations on that. That is amazing.
I get excited. I get very excited about it.
Where can readers find out more about you and your books?
So I have a website, www.shawnarodrigues.com. And Rodrigues is spelled with an S, Rodrigues. So you can find it there. Beyond the Pear Blossoms is on Amazon. It's carried by, Powell's bookstores in Portland. So of course I'm excited about, independent bookstores. Barnes and Noble has it. So it should be, we're fairly easy to find and to order. A lot of bookstores are still, you have to order it in, but they do carry it. So anywhere you can look, you should be able to find Beyond the Pear Blossoms. And if you go to my website, I do sell books there, and you can get signed copies from there as well, if you're interested in doing that. So, and that is where you can sign up for my newsletter. And when I do finally get that next project, you will know about it. So.
As usual, I will have all of Shawna's information down in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. While you're down there, give us a like, subscribe to me if you like for more author interviews, and throw us a comment. If you have some questions for me, for Shawna, go ahead and throw that down there too. We won't mind at all, I promise. So, Shawna, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been great.
Thank you for doing this, Terri. It's been really wonderful chatting with you.
And thanks, guys, for watching, and I will see you next week. Have a great one.